Hey y'all, and welcome to my channel, Kitchen Notes from Nancy. If you're new here, I'd like to welcome you to our neighborhood, and I hope you decide to subscribe before you leave today. And if you're already a member of our neighborhood, I'd like to greet you with the customary, hey neighbor. In today's video, I have a home-style specialty recipe for you. This is a recipe for a delicious, creamy chicken pot pie. You know, you can't go wrong with the chicken pot pie, guys. So today, I'm going to share with you my recipe for how I do this. And you know that it is going to be fabulous. So, if you're interested in learning how to make this, all you gotta do is stay tuned. But really quick, before we hop in today's video, you already know what I need from you. Go ahead and give this video a big like. That lets me know that you're enjoying the content, and it also lets YouTube know you're enjoying the content. So, without further ado, let's hop in today's recipe. Okay, y'all, so I'm going to cover the ingredients for the pot pie really quick. So, you're going to need some butter, and you're going to need pie crust. So, I use these ones that you roll out for the top of the pie, and then I use deep dish ready-made pie crust for the bottom. So if you want to make your own pie crust, you can. This is just my preference because it's super easy. I have about 2 cups of frozen peas and carrots. Definitely use the frozen ones if you don't use fresh, and that's just because if you use the cans, it'll probably be salty for one and then mushy. You're going to need some flour. This is about 1/4 of a cup of flour, maybe 1/3. I have 2 stalks of celery and a medium onion that are already cut up. I diced up some chicken tenderloins that I had boiled. So I just diced those up. Sometimes I saute them, but these were frozen, so it was easier for me to boil them, and I didn't have to thaw them. So, but if you wanted to saute the chicken, that's fine as well. And in that water, I just put some chicken base and a little bit of seasoned salt. And then I have 3 kind of small sized potatoes that I cut up. And then when I took the chicken out of that broth, I dropped those potatoes in, and I just boiled those until they were fork tender. So these are already tender. If you try to use raw potatoes, it's going to be really hard, and then they'll, you know, to tenderize them, and then they'll be crunchy when your pot pie gets done. We're going to use a little bit of this Knorr bouillon to amp up the flavor of this chicken broth. So we're using 32 ounces of chicken broth, and then we're also using this Knorr bouillon powder. You can substitute bouillon cubes if you would like to. For my seasonings, I'm using a little Slap Your Mama, black pepper, a little bit of salt if we need it, cayenne pepper, parsley flakes, and also some minced garlic. And for the salt, I say if we need it because the Knorr has salt in it, and so does the Slap Your Mama. So when we do our taste test, kind of in the process of cooking, I'll let you know if we need salt. So since everything is already kind of cut up for us, we are going to open up these pie crusts, and I let mine set out on the counter so they could go ahead and thaw. And so we are going to head over to the stove and get started. And a quick FYI, my oven is already preheated to 400 degrees. I cooked my pot pie on 400 degrees for about 25 minutes. I have turned my pot on here, and so I'm gonna take a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of butter. So I'm putting about a tablespoon or so of olive oil, and then I'm gonna follow that up with 3 tablespoons of butter, and this is what we are going to begin the saute process of our vegetables in. Oh, and I forgot to put milk out, y'all. So I'm gonna reach in the refrigerator real quick and grab milk. You will need milk. Make sure you check the description bar for a list of the ingredients. So now that our butter has melted, I'm gonna go ahead and drop in the onions and celery. And I'm going to start sauteing those down. Chicken pot pie is an extremely savory dish. Chicken pot pie is an extremely savory dish. So a lot of people, you know, they eat it in the winter time. I'm gonna be honest, I'm one of those people. I eat whatever I want any time of the year. So if I have a craving for it, I eat it. I will eat beef stew in the dead of winter. I mean, in the dead of summer. I'm just that person. So I had a taste for some good old chicken pot pie, so I decided to make some tonight. So I'm going to let these saute down, and I will come back once they have gotten to a point where we're ready to move to the next step. So the celery and onions have softened a bit, and you know, they'll continue to cook as we go through this process. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in the remainder of my butter. So that's about 4 tablespoons of butter. And we're getting ready to make our roux. Some people like to use cream of chicken soup and things like that in their chicken pot pie. I prefer to go the route of making a roux. It just helps to cut down on some of the extra preservatives and things that are in the cream of chicken soups, you know, for me. So this is my preference, but if you want to skip this step, you could easily use a cream of chicken soup, and then you won't have to do this step right here. So I'm going to let the rest of this butter melt, and then I'm going to grab my flour. And I know some of y'all are probably thinking, that's a lot of butter. But this is a very, very rich dish. So, you know, it is what it is. So now I'm going to sprinkle in about 1/4 of a cup of the flour. And that's just all-purpose flour. Y'all know sometimes I use self-rising, but for this, I'm using all-purpose. And we're just gonna cook this down for a bit. Cook it for about 2 minutes or so. You wanna cook that raw taste out of the flour. And you know, when you're making a roux, you just keep it moving. I'm working on about medium heat now. And if I hadn't told you before, my oven is preheated to 400 degrees. So while you're doing this, go ahead and preheat your oven. That's one less thing you won't have to wait on. Chicken pot pie can actually be prepared relatively quickly once, you know, even if we had to saute the chicken, we could have easily sauteed the chicken with our onions and celery. So that wouldn't have been a bad amount of time. So you can actually prepare this kind of from start to finish, from start into this part about 30 minutes, and then you're gonna cook it for about another 30 minutes. So you could easily do this in about an hour. And it is one of those deliciously hearty meals, and you will not be upset that you decided to make it. All right, I'll go ahead and dump my chicken in. Just add it to this and start heating it up. Keep in mind that my chicken was already cooked. So my chicken was previously cooked. Just kind of heating it up a little bit. And now I'm gonna go in with the chicken broth, and I'm going to use all 32 ounces of the chicken broth. Try not to make a mess here. Okay, gonna go in with the rest of the broth. Give that a stir. All right, now what I'm going to do is add in about a cup of milk. And some people use heavy cream. I just would rather use whole milk. So I'm gonna put about a cup of that in here. Help make it creamy. All right. And keep in mind, we're still on a medium heat. And what we're going to do is start to season. So I'm going to use some Slap Your Mama. Some black pepper. I'm going to go in with a little bit of cayenne pepper. You can omit cayenne pepper if you would like to. I forgot to saute my garlic. It was sitting on the other counter. So what I'm going to do in this recipe is I'm going to go in with garlic powder, since I forgot to saute that garlic, because I don't want to deal with kind of raw taste. So I'm just going to sub the garlic for garlic powder. So in the bottom you'll see it say garlic or garlic powder. I was originally going to use minced garlic, but kind of forgot that it was sitting over there on the counter, and so it'll be fine. We're gonna dress it up a little bit. A little parsley. I just think the parsley kind of makes the inside of the pot pie really pretty. I hate these little bitty holes that's in here. Do this. Haha. Bam. So much quicker. Alright. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to allow this to kind of come to a boil and simmer for about 15 minutes or so until it thickens. So I will be back in about 15 minutes to show you the next thing that I do. I almost forgot our extra bouillon powder. So we're just gonna amp up that chicken flavor a little bit. I'm gonna give it a quick stir. Alright, and we're gonna let it continue to reduce. So this has started to thicken beautifully. I hope you can see how that has really thickened up with that flour. So now what we're going to do, we're going to put in our peas and carrots. And these were frozen and I didn't defrost them, so I'm gonna let them defrost here. Let those warm up nicely. And the reason why I added them toward the end is because I don't want them to get mushy. You know, it doesn't take peas and carrots long to cook, so I didn't want it to be too mushy. And I'm gonna go ahead and add in my pre-cooked potatoes. I've been nibbling on them, and they are already fork tender. So really, I'm just heating them back up. And just kind of gently fold those over and in. Okay, so I'm gonna let this go for about 5 minutes just to get those peas and carrots kind of heated through, and then we're going to give it a taste test. Okay, y'all, so now everything has married together. It is absolutely beautiful. That's why I told you, you don't have to use that cream of chicken. You can do this by yourself. I'm gonna grab a spoon. We're gonna give this filling a little taste here, because whatever this filling tastes like, that's what your pot pie tastes like. So let's see. That is delicious. The cayenne pepper gives it like a perfect kick, and everything else is married together nicely. So what we are about to do is put this filling in our pie crust. Pie crust kind of in the picture. I'll try to do this and not burn myself. So we're gonna just get them nice and full. And I'm using, like I said before, the deep dish pie crust, and this makes a lot, y'all. Like, it really makes a lot. So try to put as much as I can in here, but you don't want them to be overfilled and to overflow. The only thing I want overflowing is my blessings from the Lord, okay? I don't want my pot pie overflowing. So get as much of this in here as I can. And I'll tell you that I have made a chicken pot pie soup before. So really, if you have too much of this left over, you could add a few things to it and make like a chicken pot pie soup. And it would be absolutely delicious. It's about all that I'm gonna be able to get in there. Want to get just a little, make sure it's nice and creamy. Don't nobody want no dry pot pie. And we're gonna put these on a sheet pan. I'm gonna put all that chicken in there. We are not leaving chicken. I'm gonna put them on a sheet pan, so if they do overflow a little bit, it'll be okay. I'm trying to use up as much as I can, but this just shows you that the recipe I'm using makes a whole lot for you. So this is a really good recipe for anybody, you know, trying to stretch $1 and save a little bit of money. Is open up our pie crust, and this is what we're going to put on the top. And these are pretty much the perfect size for you already. So I just take it, lay it over the top, and then I'm just gonna kind of have to trim the excess off. It's not letting me fold it, so we'll just trim it off. It's not that big a deal. So just take your knife and go around the edge of the pie tin like that. Okay, and now to seal this, I'm not trying to do anything fancy. I'm just trying to make sure that the pot pie seals around the edges. So I just go around it with my fork and I'm pushing the top into the bottom. So just sealing those pieces together. Nothing fancy. So, you know, if you're a pastry chef or pastry worker, don't make fun of my little, you know, situation here. This is just how I do it. It's gonna taste delicious. That's all that matters. Now what I'm going to do to the top is I'm just gonna put 4 little holes to make sure that it vents, so that it lets the air out. And then we'll move that to the side and do it again. So what I'm gonna do, take the top off, roll it out, once it's all rolled out, I just lay it over the top. Find that spot right up against the pie tin and go around it. Okay. Take that little edge off. Right up against the pie tin. Right around it. Super easy. Alright. Now, take that fork and just seal the top crust and the bottom crust together. I'm telling you, you'll fool people. Especially with this little fork trick. People will be like, oh, she made the crust homemade. Nope, but the pie is. Now, for me personally, I'm not a big fan of egg wash. So I like to bake mine. I'm gonna bake it for probably about 25 minutes. Then I'm gonna pop them out and rub some butter on the top. And then we'll put them back in for 5 more minutes. And that's what's gonna give us that really beautiful golden brown color. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of egg wash. So that's what's gonna give us our color. So I'm about to get these on a tray and get them popped in the oven, and I'll see you when they come out. All right, y'all, so here are the pies, and they have been in the oven for 30 minutes. So now I'm just gonna take a little melted butter and I'm gonna brush the top of the pies. You know, I told you I would do this with about 5 minutes left. Just to help them brown a little bit, because I'm not a huge fan of egg wash. So I prefer to use butter and apparently make a mess all over my stove. So now what we're gonna do is sit them back in the oven and let them brown a little. All right, y'all, so here are the final products, and I'm gonna let them rest for a bit, probably about 10 minutes before I get ready to cut into them. I don't want them to just kind of explode on me. So I'm going to give them about 10 minutes and then we'll cut into it and look at the inside. Y'all, this is just a little footage of me actually cutting into the pot pie. You hear how flaky it is, and I'm shooting this on my phone just because I didn't want to kind of deal with the whole camera situation because I'm really hungry. So you see the inside, and that bottom crust got beautiful as well, y'all. See all of this flaky deliciousness? That's what we want. And that's what we want. Oh, wow. I know this is going to be so delicious. And as always, y'all, if you make this, please be sure to come back, drop down in the comment section, let me know what you thought about it. Go ahead, give this video a like. You know I love you guys. And until next time, I made a huge mess getting it out of there. Bye, neighbors.